Let's go live to lead partner at Deloitte Access Economics, Pradeep Phillip. I want to get your thoughts, Pradeep. Let's start your overall assessment of these numbers today. What's your read?
Look, Kieran, these numbers were pretty much as expected. And of course, there are two things that are interesting about the numbers. The first of which is that all these cost of living subsidies and measures by the Australian government and state and territory governments are showing up in the figures. That's why the headline rate has dropped dramatically. But the second thing we see about these figures is that the things that are going up are rents, new dwellings, insurance. These are things we have known for a little while, and they're driven by supply side factors. And they point us in the direction of the things that we should be doing to get our economy back onto a good footing.
Pradeep, the Treasurer pointing to the underlying number down from 3.8 to 3.4, heading in the right direction. Where does it need to get to? Where do we need to be for the RBA to cut rates? Because the message from Governor Bullock yesterday in wonderful expectation management mode, she really was, wasn't she, in terms of saying to people, I know what the number's going to be tomorrow, but you've got to look through that.
Absolutely. And look, what we are seeing is some clear trends. Inflation in Australia is coming down, both headline and underlying. But we know the underlying rate is not coming down as quickly as people might have expected. It's a little bit sticky, but the direction is right. But what we see on the other side is that interest rates are doing their job, because a couple of weeks ago, Kieran, we saw that the GDP figures for the June quarter showed that we have an anemic economy, an economy barely growing. And importantly, the private economy was really flat, with consumption flat, investment flat. And this is really important. And the Reserve Bank is trying to get this balance right. It's raised interest rates before. You can see inflation coming down, but interest rates are doing their job with a flat economy. And so we now need to make sure that the dialogue pivots to how we get growth back in the economy. And you see in yesterday's statement, the Reserve Bank is raising some uncertainties. They need consumption to start to come back. They need to see the economy revive a little bit for confidence to grow.
That growth message, Pradeep, that's not where she's at yet, is it, the Governor? She's still, they're still talking about driving inflation down. So when would you expect that cut to happen? When do we get to that pivot that you're talking about? Because it's not there yet.
Yeah. Look, we think that the debate should be pivoting now, but we think the Reserve Bank will cut rates only early in the new year. They'll want to see more evidence of, as you point, the underlying inflation rate coming down a little bit further. But what they will also see over the next few months is how the economy more generally is performing. And this is really important, because we can't have an anemic economy or investment flat for too long, because what that does is it crimps our future. And so the challenge right now, Kieran, is how do you create the conditions for businesses to invest? And business really has to invest. In fact, economic history tells you that when growth is low, that's the best time for businesses to invest in things like new technology, new processes, because there are a lot of challenges ahead of us. And if you do that, history tells you that the companies that do that will gain a reward down the track.
Do you think the RBA is acting, is it too slow here? Is it not moving and shifting quickly enough? And also, parallel to that, is the government holding that up, that discussion, because it's spending too much?
Look, it's, being governor of a central bank is a pretty tough job. And I think our central bank has generally been doing a really good job in very difficult economic circumstances. They have a real clear mandate to make sure that inflation comes down, and they just want to make sure that that is really happening. But at the same time, they're seeing the economy slow, because that's what interest rates do. And they've got to get their timing right. And I think the next few months are going to be the critical time for the central bank in getting that balance right. Now, we do know with an economy that has slowed, that government spending is kind of propping up the economy right now. But the question will be, what does that look like going forward, especially if the private economy starts to revive? And this is why governments have to be really careful now. They have to think about that fiscal position. And importantly, it's not just necessarily the size of your surplus or deficit that matters, it's what you do with that government spending. And we now have to make sure government policy is creating the right environment for businesses to invest in growth, to invest in jobs.
Indeed, and a bit of productivity hopefully along the way. Lead partner for Deloitte Access Economics, Pradeep Phillip, thank you. Appreciate it.